Hello everybody, Captain Mark here again with another short video to answer a viewer's question. And this question comes from Stephen in the United Kingdom, and Stephen asked me if I'd ever had to deal with anybody falling overboard and have I ever rescued anybody at sea. Well, yes, on both counts, Steve. I did have somebody fall overboard from a ferry in the English Channel, but that was all over very, very quickly because we called the RNLI and they came out and found the person and picked them up within about half an hour of us calling for assistance. The second one was a rescue that we did halfway between Fiji and American Samoa in the middle of the Pacific. I was having dinner at the time. It was around about 6 o'clock in the evening. My phone rang and it was the officer of the watch, Anne-Marie, on the bridge called me. And she said, "Captain, can you come to the bridge?" And I, as I do in a normal situation, I say, "Do I walk or do I run?" And she said, No, there's just something I'm not sure about, but I want you to see." So I said, "Okay, I'm on my way." And I said to my dinner guests that I had to go. I was required on the bridge and left the dining room. When I got to the bridge, the able seaman on lookout, Carmelo, and the officer of the watch, Anne-Marie, had binoculars to their faces and were looking out over the starboard bow into the distant horizon. I couldn't see anything at the time with my naked eye, so I asked them what it was. And Anne-Marie said, "I think we have seen a small boat and I think there's someone waving at us." Now, we were miles from anywhere, and I mean a long, long way away from any land, and it's not the area of the world that you would expect to see a small boat. So I picked up the binoculars and I couldn't see anything, and I said to them, "I don't see it." And she said, look over there," and she tried to show me, and sure enough, there was a tiny little speck. My goodness, it was small. And I said, "Are you sure you've seen what you've seen?" She said, "No, I'm not sure." So I said, "Okay, to be on the safe side, we'll divert the ship and we'll go and have a look." So over we went, and sure enough, there was this little aluminium boat with 3 people in it. And we decided to launch our rescue boat and go over and make sure everything was okay. Well, what a story these guys had. Only one of them spoke English, but it turned out they were from Samoa and had been caught up in a storm and blown away from the island, and the boat was only equipped for a day at sea. They'd run out of fuel and they had been at sea 26 days. Well, I couldn't believe it. I have to say, when we saw them, we got them on board, they were in remarkably good condition for 26 days at sea. They'd been living on the fish that they'd caught, and they'd caught rainwater to drink, and were in very, very good spirits. Not so when I told them I could rescue them, but I had to leave their boat behind. I had no way of lifting that boat on board. So we packed them up, brought them on board, and looked after them. They were sent down to the doctor, who gave them the once-over. We stripped them off, we gave them a shower, we gave them some boiler suits to wear because their clothes were in a terrible state, threadbare they were. They were quite sunburnt and dehydrated. But over the course of the next few days, they perked up remarkably. And of course, I had to tell our passengers all about what had happened. And I didn't think anything more of it. Unbeknownst to me, one of our passengers was a reporter from USA Today, and we were splashed all over the front page. Our next port of call was Pago Pago in American Samoa, and these guys were on board our ship for 4 days before we got there. And in that time, our passengers had had a whip round and raised $8,000 for them because they realized they'd lost the boat. But the most important thing of all is we had to let somebody know that we had these guys. So I called the Marine Rescue Centre in Wellington, under whose jurisdiction this part of the sea came, and told them what we'd done. We'd found this boat, and he confirmed, my goodness, we had a report of this boat 26 days ago being lost at sea. We'd sent planes to look for them. They hadn't been found, so they'd given them up for dead. And I said, well, we've got these guys on board, and they are in remarkably good condition. So the MRCC Wellington, the Marine Rescue Centre, thanked us, and I told him that we were taking them to American Samoa, our next port of call. So the guy that spoke English, I brought him up to the bridge and I said, look, use the satellite phone. You need to tell somebody that you're safe and well back in Samoa. So he did. And while he was on the phone, he started to sob and cry. And I said, is everything okay? He told me that he'd informed the families of all three of them. It turned out these three families had given them up for dead and had actually held a church service to say goodbye to them. So you can imagine the emotions that were running when they found out all three of them were alive. We arrived in Pago Pago in American Samoa to find out that the authorities had flown their families to the Pago Pago to join them and welcome them back into the land of the living, if you will. We all lined the ship's railings. We gave them their time and their peace, and these three guys walked off the gangway into the arms of their waiting families. I can tell you, it is probably one of the most emotional things I've ever seen and witnessed. The officer of the watch was given a commendation and a lovely certificate and some cash, a cheque to thank her. What annoyed me a little bit was actually the able seaman, Carmelo, was the guy who spotted the boat primarily, and he got a thank you. That wasn't good enough for me. We eventually arrived in Hawaii. I had my son on board with me, and I'd booked a helicopter flight just to take him round and show him a bit of Honolulu by helicopter. But I decided to send Carmelo as a thank you with my son instead of me going. And by all accounts, they had a fantastic day, seeing all the sights. I never heard from those three guys again. At the end of the day, that doesn't really matter, but it's just lovely to know that we made a difference and we saved the lives of three guys. And thanks to Carmelo and Anne-Marie's suspicion that they'd seen something but couldn't put their finger on it, those three guys lived to fish another day. So there you are, Steve. I hope that answers your story. Thank you for the question, and any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. Do like and do subscribe, and let's see if we can move this channel on a little bit with some more viewers' questions. Thanks everybody. Bye now.